Hello, Uggies Worldwide. I'm Dave Kassler, amateur radio call sign KE0OG, here with another episode of Ask Dave. Today we are going to review the Retevis RA89. It's a new radio, and a very nice radio. As it turns out, I've put it through the tests and looked at it, and I do recommend it. I think it has some flaws which you'll see coming up, but then again, I have yet to find the perfect radio that has everything in it that I want. This comes pretty close, and it's got good transmit specs too. It actually acts very nicely. It's one of these things that actually transmits just in the ham band. How nice. Okay, it also picks up FM radio, but you can't pick up things like NOAA weather radio and stuff like that. And I think that is a defect that can be fixed with a firmware update. Anyway, some things that I'd like to go into. First, we're going to go through the overhead and look at the manual, the unboxing, all the different parts of it, and so on. We're also going to look at how it rates on the spectrum scope, and I will tell you right now, it rates quite well, much better than most Chinese radios. And it's not very expensive. You can pick it up on Amazon. I will put a link below, and you can go there and pick it up. And you won't pay any more for it by using that link, but there will be a little bit coming my way to help the channel, a little bit of a finder's fee. It is a dual band radio, 2 meter, 70 centimeter, okay? Covers all of that in the US. And one other thing I wanted to mention before we jump into this is that my wife and I tested the voice quality on this radio, and I was very pleasantly surprised. The audio was clear, like it should be on FM. There was no distortion, no digital-ish sound or anything to it, just nice, clear FM. So this makes a very nice radio for that. So now we're going to jump to the overhead, do the overhead things, and then we'll come back. This is the user manual, Retevis RA89 user manual. Notice it's about twice the size of the usual user manual. It is entirely in English, and there are 20 pages to it. Here's what you get in the box. This is the Retevis, right here, the RA89. Okay, and the battery goes on rather interestingly. But before we do that, I want you to notice something here. Right there it says FCC ID 3A or 2A300 RA89. Okay, that's claimed. As of the making of this review, that is not on the FCC website. So maybe it's pending or something like that, but it is not on the FCC website. Now, the battery goes in easily, in like this at the top, down here at the bottom, snap, and push this little thing till it clicks. To get the battery off, there's a little lever right here. You stick your fingernail in, pull it back like that. Okay, the bottom pops down, and the radio pops out, and just the reverse to make it stay in there. It takes a few hours to charge the first time, and I have already charged it. Let's look at some of the other things in the box. There's a USB-A to USB-C cable. Everything is going to USB-C these days. There is a belt clip with little screws there that you can mount right there. Okay, I don't usually like those. They get tangled up in things. Here is a little wrist strap for carry cord, which can be very handy so that you don't actually drop it. Now, I want to point out a little bit about charging. This is your standard charger. And what it takes for an input, surprisingly, again, the world is moving this way. The input is not 12 volts, but a USB-C-A. And you plug this into your little power supply, which is there too. Okay. And now I want to show you another way to charge it. Okay, you see this little black cover right here, which is important for being waterproof. You want to pull this thing off and don't lose it. Put this USB-C in the back, and now you can charge your battery that way. Okay, so you can charge spare batteries or whatever. Now the reason you want to put this thing back on is because that's a hole in the external body, and water will seep in there. Let's take kind of a look at what we've got over here. Just a standard rubber duck. One thing I will point out about the rubber duck is that the antenna is male. See that? Let me put this right here. Okay, the antenna is male. You can see the plug in there. So if you bend that plug, you just lose the rubber duck. The radio itself is female. Okay. Now these are interchangeable with other radios as long as they've got the correct gender. There is no standard on the gender. Okay, push to talk, a programmable function button, a programmable function button. My fingers can't feel that one and that two. Take somebody with better fingers. I'm getting old. Over here on this side, you have a screw-down cover, and that is not a captive screw. So real easy to lose. Here's your cover. Assuming you can get it out of there. Again, not captive. And here's your headphone microphone thing here. This is also where the non-included programming cable plugs in. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about the programming cable later. Now, we've got a flashlight on here, which I think is wonderful personally. The flashlight is, I mean, if you're going to use your radio for emergencies, why not have it be a flashlight too? So you can do that. Now, you note that you can display up here the VFO or a memory channel. And like all Chinese radios these days, they're combining all sorts of words into what they've got there. This is your function key. This AB switches back and forth between the upper and the lower. AB, upper, lower, well, you get the idea. Okay, these keys right here take the place of another knob up here where you might change channels or something. Now, this key right here, radio. This is how you change. Now watch this right here real carefully. We're going to put this, and we're going to go from VFO to memory recall. Now it says radio. I think somewhere in the Chinese way of thinking, changing it to a different radio means changing to a different set of settings within the radio. This button right here is how you switch between VFO to memory one at a time, either up here, down here, or on the FM. If we hold this in long enough, we get to the FM radio, and there are see, that's a channel mode, or you can do a VFO mode. Okay, and you've got this. Now, of course, when a regular signal comes in, it will blank out the FM radio. So you can safely listen to the radio if you're waiting for a call. Okay, and another long press, and we're back to ham. Now, why do they have to market radio? This is a competing radio. It's a Radiodity radio, and look at this right here. VFO's memory is a separate button, and AB is a separate button, and the F here is replaced by the menu. So, hint, hint, Retevis, let's get with the program here and get these buttons labeled properly. As it turns out, the function of this button is in an obscure place in the manual. And using this back here to charge the battery is nowhere in the manual. Otherwise, generally, the manual's pretty good. Okay, we've been around it. Now, let's talk about where this is the earphone and headphone thing. There is no included earpiece. Although you can get one and plug it in. This is the standard so-called Kenwood style. Now, this is the programming cable, which they sent me, kind of thrown into the box. But according to Amazon, this doesn't come with it. SKU C9018A is what you're looking for. And this is the Retevis programming cable. Now, interestingly, it works also with this Osheng cable that I picked up years ago that works with almost, not all, almost all the radios that I've worked with. And I tried it with this radio, and it works. So if you already have a programming cable for another radio that looks like this, okay, you've got a good chance that it's going to work for you. I like the flatter box. It's easier to use than the big round ones like other brands come in. What I want to do now is talk about the instruction manual. And let me just come out for just a second here. Okay. Now here's the instruction manual. It's 20 pages. It's all in English, so it's not just a few pages and then the other. This is actually a pretty good instruction manual. For one thing, it's got a table of contents. So we can go down here and look at this right here. Dot matrix LCD display. There is nothing fancy about this display. No color or anything like that. Power on, mode select, able, you can set it to where you want to come on. DTMF, calling channels, quick assignment. This is for talking with other radios where you use DTMF codes to open up the other radio. It does also have DTMF listed over here for like if you're going to make an auto patch call, but there are very few auto patches left in the United States, or North America, I should say. It has wide, mid, narrow, bandwidth selectable. We use wide for ham radio. Okay, 200 channels, that's nice. Dual band, dual weight, dual standby, great. Busy channel lock. That keeps you from transmitting over somebody. Now that can be a problem. If the person that you're hearing is a long ways away and you must talk to somebody nearby, then you're going to have to defeat this so that you can transmit on that same channel so that your local guy can hear. Normally that's not a problem, but it could be. Scan, you can do frequency or CTCSS scans. It's got an FM radio with 24 channels that you can set from the front panel or you can set from the programming software. There are multiple types for key lock setting. I don't know, I just know one way to lock the keyboard. TOT is timeout timer, where after a certain amount of time, if you are, for example, sitting on this thing and it's transmitting, it will turn itself off after the setting you put there. Now, this remote stun, kill, and activate is not used in ham radio in the United States. Okay, it's a nice feature, I guess, if you're doing commercial work. ANI is sort of like the CTCSS code, except we don't use that in the United States. Push-to-talk ID means that when you push to talk, it sends out the ID of your radio. We don't use that in the U.S. VOX stands for voice-operated relay, or voice-operated transmit. I highly recommend you stay away from it entirely. It's just problematic in a VHF handheld. It's problematic on HF, but it's also very problematic on this because you're going to end up transmitting things you don't want to transmit. Battery saving, there is a battery saving mode in there. Scrambler is illegal in the United States, but not in other places. Multi-display mode. Well, you can display the frequency, the channel number, or a name that you program in for the channel. DTMF, or dual tone multi-frequency, is when you are transmitting, if you press a numbered key, you will transmit just as though you were touching a touch-tone phone. As I said, not used very much. Backlight brightness setting, how exciting. Comp, I don't know what that means. I can't find it again in the book. If somebody knows what that means, please put a comment in. The 1750 Hertz tone is used in Europe to open repeaters. It is not used in the United States. Two-tone, five-tone is another way of opening repeaters, and it is not used in the United States. CTCSS and DCS are different ways to open repeaters. We do not use DCS in the United States, but CTCSS is very much used in the United States. Fortunately, it's reasonably easy set. It's got using settings, usual stuff, charging the battery pack, and so on. Use the charger that comes with the radio. Now, up here, we talk about, this is exciting to put a table in for. If it's charging, it's red. If it's completed its charge, it's green. Now, this is lithium-ion battery. So when it says green, it's fully charged, and you can take it off the charger at that point. Okay, battery tips, so on, installation of accessories. We've got the battery pack, and remember this little clip comes back, this one comes up on there, installing, removing the antenna. If you've never seen an antenna in your life, that's how to do it. This is they actually provide the little dinky screws that go in there. This is how you put on a headset or a speaker mic. This is also how you attach the programming cable. Now, this little block diagram here doesn't tell us anything we don't know. These are number all keys, by the way. This one right here, which switches between VFO and memory, is not labeled here. It should be right here. And this is the M VFO switch. Okay. Now, push to talk is absolutely what you think it is. Now, these keys right here are programmable. You can change them for what you might want. Now, a short press here is the listen mode, so you can listen on the transmitted frequency. I may be wrong about that, but you will. It says to disable the noise squelch, allowing you to hear very weak signals. A long press starts a scan if you're in the FM broadcast mode. Okay, you can reprogram these for whatever you might want. Now, this is good. Here is the LCD display with every possible icon that will come up here. And then they tell you in this table, all of them, what they are. Okay? This is the channel number here and here. This shows which is active, although if you're doing dual watch, the other can come up if this is inactive. Okay, now one I want to warn you about. This one. It says receiver shift direction. That can be a plus, or if it's just a dash, that's minus. Okay? Now, one thing Chinese radios have not done that bugs me is that they do not do what the Japanese radios do, where they have a built-in band planned. So if you put in the signal that you want to listen to the repeater on, it already knows that's a repeater channel and it puts in the offset, either negative or positive. The Chinese radios do not do that. Okay. Switch the A or B to be the operating band. And this is also used, the AB, in the menu setting as an exit back to real life. Okay, various things here. They've taken the first 10 memory items and put them in with the buttons. Show you that here. So instead of being able to use this, now note the way the Radioddity does it. You've got A, B, C, D, E, F. You set this like you would a phone in order to set names and so on. You can do it from the front panel. This one right here is an older method where if you push function and then any one of these buttons, it'll pick up the corresponding thing. I'm going to show you an example of this. Let's take function and power. It's got high, medium, and low. So we push the function key again, and we pick high, low, or medium. Okay, and we'll just leave it on high. Push the function button again to set it. Okay, and then back to where you are going. Okay, so that's the basic process for the functions. Now, if the function is not on here, you can push the number of the function and it will bring it up. And I don't think there's been any effort made to make the list of functions so that the most popular would be on the front. So, anyway. Okay, now notice down here, press key, star radio. The star is the DTMF, okay, and then there is the radio. And that is what switches between channel mode or memory mode and the VFO mode, which is called frequency mode on the Chinese radios. Okay, now it tells you here about different working modes you can go in. Here are all of the menus that goes way over here on the other side. There's some shortcut operations for these. Okay, and you press the F, like here's an 11, gives you a timeout timer off. Press F again. Now you can adjust between off, 30 seconds to 70 seconds, so on. Press F again to set it, and then AB to take you back to your normal operating mode. It's very nice the way it does that. Now there are detailed function descriptions in here. The thing will scan either memory channels or frequency ranges. It will also scan your FM frequencies if you have them in memory. All right, and it comes down to here. I want to show you this. Am I on the right page? No, it's coming up. Here are the CTSS tone frequencies. This is all of them, which is good. Okay, DCS codes, which we don't use in the U.S. Here's the description of tones and how you can do that. I wouldn't use the emergency alert. It's just weird and hard to turn off. Now, from the front panel, you can insert a channel. You go into the VFO mode, insert the channel, and so on. And these are the steps you need to go through to do it. And these are not all of the steps, because these do not indicate putting in an offset or how much that offset is. What you want is the offset by channel, not universally. If you set it from the functions, it will set it universally. So to really do this properly, you've got to go into software. Your FM receiver, okay. There is a way to set the received noise cancellation feature. It's just like on your HF radio. And so it will tend to process out background noises coming in, okay? Just like it works on your HF radio. It can be set from menu 38. The only two options are on and off. Okay, there is a way, if you have another one of these radios, that you can stand side by side and transmit information about a channel from one radio to another. Then all of these go into the programming software. Let's look at the technical parameters. Channel number is 200, operating voltage 7.4 DC. That's on the inside of the radio, okay? It's not what we feed it. There is no accessory that you can plug into this that will power it while you're using it. You could keep this DC part attached with the USB cable here if you wanted to. This will allow you to keep the battery charged while you are traveling. Now let's look at some of these other things here. Operating temperature, -10 is below freezing, but not 0. 50 degrees centigrade is very hot, but that does not mean leave this thing on the dashboard in the sun. Not good for it. Weight, 295 grams, almost 0.3 kilograms. It is hefty, okay, hefty, and it's solid. This is not a cheap radio. Frequencies, now this is for the US version, 144 to 148, 420 to 450. That is the US version. Now I have said many times that these radios ought not to be able to transmit outside the ham bands. And they've done that with this version. And yes, of course, you can go on the internet and find stuff that will tell you what you can do to defeat that. But I would recommend that you not do that. Now, one thing that is very unfortunate is that the receive range on the US version is only the ham bands. In the European version, you've got smaller channels, or smaller bands. This is the native capability of receiving. Now, note that if you wanted to receive the NOAA weather channels that fall in this region here, this will stop you from doing it. So this is both the receive and the transmit range for the US version. Okay? And that is a mistake. I think that people should be able to transmit only on these channels, but should be able to receive outside that band so they can listen to their favorite public service or the NOAA weather radio or things like that. There's no law against listening. Okay, the sensitivity is good. Selectivity, intermediation, what they really mean is intermodulation. Okay, I have a kit to build a two-tone audio source, and I will start testing these when I get that. Output audio, 500 milliwatts, that's not a lot, but it's good enough. Audio distortion, up to 10%, that's, I don't know, you don't want to listen to it there. Frequency stability, 5 parts per million. That actually, at 100 megahertz, that can be fairly large, but I think it works better than that. Current standby only 60 milliamps, transmitting to 50 milliamps. Okay, so that takes you through the specs. Now there are some guidelines on RF exposure. Basically keep it an inch from your noggin. There's a guarantee and sort of what to do with it. Contact the seller where you buy, it says, or read this particular website there. Okay, and then some pages for notes, and that's it. Okay, one thing I always do on radios is check the output signal. This is a Tiny SA Ultra, and I'm going to turn this on and just transmit on 2 meters. Okay, this is on 2 meters. Yeah, now this thing takes several passes. You can see the green line at the bottom doing the passes. It takes several passes to get it down to where it needs to be. And I'm just transmitting. Now we're getting closer, okay, to what the thing looks like. There we go. Okay, now this is good. Now note that the 1 up there is at plus 10 dBm, actually. And our highest harmonic of any reasonable care is down over here in the minus 40. So that would be minus 50 dB. This is far better than most Chinese radios. This is a perfectly acceptable radio, okay? Now that's on 2 meters. Now here is on 70 centimeters. Okay, we're doing good here. Let's let it go just one more. Okay, what we are seeing is this first one up here. This first one up here is the fundamental. It's just under 500 megahertz. Now, down here is the second harmonic. Okay, second harmonic. And it is 32 from 20, now about 18, so about 50, let's see, 30 to 20 would be 50, it's about 35 to 20, so 55. This is excellent, actually. These are way down in the bottom. I recently tested a radio that showed that on 2 meters, the second harmonic had more power than the fundamental. That is not this radio. This is a very good radio. They have a very nice output section. Now, one of the things I'm not going to cover in this video because it's too long already is the programming. You can go, if you find the Retevis RA89 on the Retevis website, you have to go to the radio and then you choose support, and that will take you in the direction of the programming software for it. Now, they have said that they are going to get to the point where you can program it with Chirp, which would be very nice. Chirp's free. Their programming software is free too. Now, it doesn't appear to come with a programming cable. you can use a programming cable that works with other radios that have programming cables that look like this. This one happens to come from PowerWorks. I think they still sell it. It's sort of a universal type of programming cable. And the software is free on their site. It's not yet on RT Systems. So there you have it. Nice little radio. Do I recommend it? Yeah. Yes, this is one of the Chinese radios I would actually recommend. It's FM only. Does a good job of it. Has got software that will do nice things. One of the major defects in the radio is that it will not receive things like the NOAA weather radio and stuff like that that's outside the ham band. I commend them for limiting transmission to the ham band. Now, I know you can find on the internet special codes that will loosen those restrictions. I recommend not using them. I recommend that you use the radio as designed because it will keep you from accidentally transmitting outside the ham band. So there you have it. And now I want to mention to you patreon.com. This is a way of supporting the channel. There will be other ways listed in the slides that follow. And the patrons up through the end of August are also listed. Look for your name there. If it's not there, go ahead and become a patron. And in October, we'll have your name there. So until we next meet, 73.